decisions from the dugout, or are they? That's how we set this chat up. Because I've got two fine men, very wise men, in Mark Boucher and Sanjay Bangar, who will help try and make an idiot like me understand when we sit here and say, what are they doing? Why aren't they bowling their leggy? Why aren't they bowling Chahal? Why aren't they sending Hetmeyer up, Russell up? Who's sending this guy to bowl at the death? And all that, we sit on these couches and become couch experts. Now that two of you sat on that couch with me enough, is there anything you'd like to say that's wise advice for fans who tend to think, what are these guys doing? We think better than that, before we get into situations in the IPL this year?
First of all, Raunak, thank you for thinking that we are wise men. Because which we are clearly not. In terms of T20C, it is outcome based.
Yes.
So let me be very, let me give you a rider.
Yeah, at the start only.
Right? That it is an outcome focused job, wherein it makes you look good when it comes off, and when it doesn't, it certainly makes people think about our capabilities as decision makers.
Okay, Bouch?
Yeah, I think to the fans, what I'd say is that there's a lot of homework that goes in behind closed doors.
Right.
You know, you got video analysis that bring up all the stats. You got media and the TV and the broadcast that will put all these stats up and that. And players and coaches, I think they see all of that. And they've got all the different scenarios that they'd like to send players in, and they have their planning. But at the game, I think, you know, you've got to try as a coach sometimes mix up a bit of your gut feel and what the stats say as well. So sitting in the dugout, you naturally have got a video analyst who will sit here next to you and you'll go, hi, DJ, who's a very good video analyst and a fantastic guy to sit next to. He would always say to me, listen, this is the matchup, and, you know, bowl this guy in this situation. I think sometimes you can get carried away with those sort of stats.
Yeah.
But I think the coaches that are the calmest, and no coach is ever calm. It's the old theory with the duck in the water. I think, you know, above the water, you've got to look very calm. You might be kicking beneath the water. But the coaches who are the calmest and they're going with their gut feel,
okay,
I think are the guys that are probably a little bit more successful than others.
And I know coaches love their simulations, among other things, in training. So let's simulate match situations. Of course, we have hindsight. But if you could pick up those sheets in front of you, and we can play this around like I'm your analyst providing this to you. And then we go by just some of the higher profile incidents and talking points. Let's go to match 6. Shimron Hetmeyer, Rajasthan against KKR, where you've sent Shubham Dubey in with the activation of the impact sub. You've sent Hasaranga in early. Now, there's an analyst who's giving you, Mark Boucher, stats like, oh, Hetmeyer struggles against spin, dismissed twice by Varun Chakravarti in 7 balls he's previously faced. So let's hold Hetty back. And you can see the outcome as well over there, that at the end of it, Hetmeyer came in at 110 for 6 after 15 and made just 7 of 8. And he ended up batting a lot with the bowlers, effectively. Now, what went down into that decision there, and would you consider it a good one or a not so good one?
I don't think that this conversation needs to be about who's right and who's wrong. I'm just going to give you my overall feeling about a player.
Sure, let's do that.
Like Hetmeyer. So where I think that sometimes we get it wrong is that you look at a guy like Hetmeyer, and first of all, you've got to know the player. Is he technically correct enough to be able to bat up the order? Yes, he is. You know, is he a guy who just is only suitable for one passage of play, which might be finishing off a game and death hitting in that sort of sense? No, I don't think so. I think he's got more of that game. So when you look into stats like facing spin against seam, and he's a lot worse in spin, very often he's coming in later on in the innings where he's batting with the tail and he's got to see off a couple of overs. So he hasn't really got license to go at it because he knows he's the last line of defense. I'm going to use an example like a Pooran. So Pooran, when he was batting 5 or 6, he was averaging about 30 and striking about 160. As soon as he's been given opportunity to go bat 3, he averages above 40 and he's striking above 184.
Right.
So I think that you've got to be careful to, when a player has 1 or 2 good innings at the back end of a game, is to say that he can only play at the death. I think a guy like Hetmeyer, for me, he's good enough to go up front, and I would actually want him to go up front every now and again and bat with the freedom that other players are sometimes afforded as well.
I mean, see, a lot of it actually starts at the auction table, and also your pre-experiences, if that is the right word to be used for franchise. Now, think of the previous season's Rajasthan Royals, and there was Ashwin batting up the order for them whenever there was a need. So
Right.
Kumar Sangakkara did it. It worked in some games. It may not have worked in some games, but there was already a case in point that okay, if we hold back Hetmeyer for a couple of overs, then we can actually maximize his potential. So there is a little bit of history behind why that franchise has opted to play in a particular fashion. So that could be one facet of it, which probably works in the favor of that particular decision.
Right.
Now, what is the right entry point? And I think we spoke about it probably in one of our earlier shows. Let me also tell you a discussion that we had on the sidelines as the match is unfolding in front of our eyes. Probably with 3 down or something, and a pair was batting out there, and me and Faf were obviously chatting. And Faf was very insistent that Dinesh Karthik's ideal entry point is 14.1. And we were probably having that discussion around the end of the 12th over.
Right.
And I was saying that even if a wicket falls in the next over, let's get Dinesh Karthik in. And here you are saying no, he has to go in the 14th over itself.
He is obviously coming to you with that after seeing certain data, or
Obviously.
yeah, because it's a very specific
Obviously, and
point for the captain.
It comes from the analyst, because he obviously has the ear of a captain, he has the ear of the coach as well. So it is very natural that the strategist or the analyst will tell the particular thing to me as well as to the captain.
Right. So then how did that play out?
It becomes a situation, because here 2 or 3 balls don't really make much of a difference, and here you would want to back a Dinesh Karthik to maybe play off, could be a leg spinner for 2 deliveries, and then his ideal entry point comes anyway. So those sort of decisions are very, very iffy, and those are, again I say, outcome based. If Dinesh has to go in the 13.3 overs and has to get out, then I would look foolish. But if he goes in at 14.1 and has a cracker of an innings, then obviously the analyst is,
Championed, yeah.
the champion.
I just want to try and whether debunk a myth or whether it's true. How much say of this does the player have? Where DK himself would say, I've also spoken to the analyst and I'm not comfortable going in that extra over or too early. Or a Hetmeyer saying, yeah, I'm not comfortable playing Varun with the record I have, so I'm okay to not go and send who you need.
Let me tell you before Mark answers your question. Dinesh used to say to me, Sanjay bhai, whichever number you send me, I will go. So that's about it. So he left the decision to me.
Yeah, a lot of players would probably do that as well. I mean, they don't want to show a sign of weakness or a sign of fear by saying, listen, I don't want to bat now, I want to bat later. I think if you've got a player like that, then the warning light should be there for you as a coach. But I think most players now, I mean, the conversations that you have before the season, they'll understand what their roles are as well. And if you say to a guy, listen, like a situation like that, we would like you there from overs 14 to 20 because that's where we feel you can do your most damage. But I mean, if a wicket falls in the 13th over, get in there.
Okay. I want to move forward quickly, but are these decisions best never left to the players? Do you never ask? Because they have sportsman pride and everything that you've mentioned. So even if you give them an unfavorable matchup, they may want to try and out of ego or out of something else try and counter it. So are these decisions solely and deliberately kept away from the player?
I think they need to be kept away from players.
Yeah.
I think that the conversation at the beginning of the competition would be that there might be certain decisions that as a coaching staff, maybe with 1 or 2 senior players, get made, but it's in the interest of the team. So if we're not going to send you up against that guy, we feel that we need you in a different situation. But you tell a player, be ready for all situations and prepare accordingly. You're not going to take him into a situation that he hasn't prepared for. So that's what I would tell my players at the beginning of a season, that this is where we're going to use you. Prepare for this, but also prepare for plan B as well. You have to be adaptable in T20 cricket.
Okay, let's pick our next scenario. This is about the use of spinners, which again has got there's a lot of emotion involved with fans. oh, why don't the best spinners bowl just because it's a left-hander, you don't bowl the left-arm spinner, you don't bowl the leg spinner. We saw a couple of incidents. Sai Kishore, who's been in terrific form this year's IPL, game against Rajasthan at Ahmedabad, where Sai didn't bowl until the 15th over, not his usual phase of bowling. There was Sanju Samson at the crease, who has an excellent record against left-arm spin, average and strike rate. He came in after, I think, most of the wickets were taken. In another slightly more higher profile one, Yuzvendra Chahal against Chennai. Now, they did end up winning the game, so I remember your outcome point. But in a 220 run chase, Shivam Dube was at 4, Devin Conway was there. Shreyas just didn't bowl Chahal at all. This is one of the IPL's leading wicket takers that we're talking about. Dube's got an excellent record against spin. We know that, especially against leg spin. So he's striking at nearly 160 and whatnot. And there is a much better record for Chahal against the right-hander. So this is how the captain chose, or the coach chose to make that decision. I'm not going into right and wrong. I'm going into how you view it in terms of a process and how it was arrived at.
See, let's take Shivam Dube as an example, right? Now, Shivam Dube obviously had a perceived weakness against the short ball earlier, which he has improved drastically. Now, I'm again give you an example. Like 2023, when he was batting at his best, he was literally taking the spinners as well as the pacers apart. Pacers were trying to bounce him. He was pulling it very well over mid-wicket square leg. That was one of his stronger areas. And all the spinners were really pumped into the stadium by him. Then what we have to see is that, okay, is it that the player has improved in other aspects as well, where his perceived weaknesses were, as also you would also see how a particular bowler from your side is feeling right at the moment.
Okay.
So maybe Shreyas Iyer at that point in time would have thought, Chahal hasn't really started the season in the best form.
Yeah.
Let me keep him away from Shivam Dube, which was also a case obviously because of the way the game was happening at that time. It was a matter of who hits the most sixes wins the game. It was that sort of a situation.
Yeah.
But here in T20 cricket, there's also a massive risk reward, wherein if you feel that a guy is confident, and it could be a great matchup for the batter in terms of his utility, you'd still throw him somebody in. And that is what exactly I remember we also doing, wherein Harpreet Brar was bowling really, really well that season, and we used him against Dube, and Dube got
LBW,
out
yeah,
LBW in the very first ball that he faced. So that in itself would tell you a little bit of how the decision making happens.
This may not be just down to a matchup as much as it is Chahal's own form, the game where if he gets a 3-6 and over game, that's the risk reward you speak of. That if I give Chahal, he may bowl well, but Dube's probability to hit 2 6s or 3 6s there, potentially changing the momentum of the innings, and then that's too big a risk. So I would rather avoid it because I have other options. Mark?
I think what Sanjay is saying as well is so important, is knowing where your player is in a headspace. What has he done before that, and how's his form? Also, who's he bowling to? Is that batter in form? I mean, you look at a guy like Nicky Poran, who comes in and he's in fantastic form. So you don't want to throw one of your bowlers to the wolves, but you also, sometimes it's good to dangle a carrot to a guy like Poran, who we all know loves to hit left-arm orthodox spin.
Yeah.
So a guy like Sai, throw and dangle the carrot at him, but at what point do you do it? Do you do it right at the beginning of Nicky Poran's innings, which then it's a 50-50 call if he wants to go for one? I mean, the best time to get a batter out is in his first couple of balls.
Sure.
So I think understanding the headspace of where the bowler is he up for the challenge? Because T20 cricket, as a bowler, you've got to be up for the challenge. If you back off, batters will sniff you out and they'll take you down. So I think knowing where your player is and also setting your player up to succeed as a bowler rather than setting him up for failure. And that sometimes we criticize captains, but that's a gut feel that only that captain knows when he looks in that bowler's eyes and he says, listen, I need you now. He either says yes or he says no.
And one spinner's use that we haven't spoken of, even more debatable, was when Pant chose not to give Bishnoi a fourth over, when we thought he had actually calculated it quite well and saved Bishnoi, who finally was bowling well. He had a tough tournament, but he bowled 3 good overs against CSK, and we thought he's going to be bowling it to Dhoni at the end, and that never happened. And there was an argument of, oh, Dubey will take Bishnoi down, because once again, we've discussed the numbers. But Dubey is very scratchy in their innings. You saw that game. So there is that, again, you leave it down to the captain, because, or do you sense there is a process from the dressing room or the dugout also saying that, no, it's good, stick with Shardul. Oh, that was just one of those where you just got to leave it to the captain.
See, we are scarred, for such moments. And I would again go back to my own example. Like, it was slightly earlier in my first stint with Punjab, and game against CSK. And twice, last season, we used it against MS Dhoni.
Right.
And he couldn't hit the ball off the square.
Right.
Rahul Chahar bowled the 19th over.
Yeah.
Okay, that was in CSK game. In one game, wherein Murali Vijay was the captain at that point, 25 to defend, 2 options. Bowl with Dhoni on strike, whether he bowls Akshar Patel with the ball turning away, or you bowl Kyle Abbott, who is known to be a good death bowler,
Yorkers.
who bowls good Yorkers. And the captain decides that it has to be Akshar Patel, who is going on his gut feel, because he knows MS having played with him at CSK. So he goes with Akshar Patel, and Dhoni quietly dispatches those, out of those 5 balls, 4 sixes.
Yeah.
And we lose the match.
Anything to add on the Bishnoi incident in that case? So that was would you classify that closest to an error as anything?
So I want to bring another game into the picture as well, and that was the MI against DC.
Okay.
And there was a little scene on the side of the field where Rohit Sharma and Mahela Javadina were trying to get Hardik's attention to say, listen, bowl spin. So sometimes from the outside, you can see things that maybe the players or the captain doesn't see on the inside of the field.
Yeah.
And they obviously had a conversation, which are leaders within in that pack as well, that they felt that the way for MI to get back in the game was to change the pace and get spin on. But that's a decision that is made quite early in the game. There was still, 6 or 7 overs to be bowled. When it comes down to the last over, then, as a coach or people sitting outside, you really just got to leave it to the captain to make that decision, unless it is something that is like a real standout, like the run rates of spin are 7 and the run rates of seam bowlers are 16. Unless it's a big standout like that, you really, I speak from my own perspective,
Yeah.
I would leave that up to the captain, because he gets the best feel about where that individual is in order to finish that last over.
Okay. I want to look at productive decision making, not just critical decision making. I'm not here only for that. So how about when you plan, and this is the opposite of what you're feeling. The scars are on one side, but the ecstasy of, we planned for this, we made this one change and it happened. So, Hazelwood and Bouvet are your new bowlers for RCB this year. And the MI game comes, and the analyst perhaps breaks down the numbers and says, Rohit Sharma against left arm seam. But you still think, Bouvet and Hazelwood are bowling so well. Hazelwood's actually setting the game up for us. But you still throw the ball to Dayal. And Dayal gets the wicket of Rohit Sharma. So I guess even in that, if there is any storytelling you can get down to, and you're actually telling a bowler like Hazelwood, yeah, today we're not giving you the new ball. He's bowling so well. We're giving it to Dayal. And the outcome, as you rightly remind me of, makes the dugout seem like a genius.
It does. And those are the moments wherein you really feel that all the hours that you put in, doing all the analysis, is really worth it. And one of the things, maybe at RCB, wherein a match against MI, and we felt that Surya loves to explore that gap between point and third man. So we, against spin, and we discuss it quite for a number of period and really close down that gap.
Yeah.
So that if he has to hit a boundary, let it be in towards the right side of the point fielder, but there should not be a boundary which goes through that gap.
Yeah.
And so we keep it very tight, and here is Surya against the off spinner, Bracewell. He rocks back onto the back foot and looks to try and find that gap, and he ends up being caught at backward point.
Good point, yeah. I remember that.
There you are, that's an eureka moment for us.
But I think a situation like the road situation, you've got time to plan for that. So you can sit there for 3 days and go, right, what's the right decision, and speak to the senior players, and then you all buy into a decision, which is fine. I think the hard thing comes is when you've got to make that decision spur the moment. That is when, whether you either you're either at the top of the world or you're at the bottom of the world. I mean, you make a decision like that, and everyone, if it comes off, it's great. It looks all fantastic, and you're the coach or the captain of the year. But if it doesn't come off, then people are pointing fingers at you and say, why did you do that? But I think that's the position that you're in. You get paid to make those big calls.
Yeah. In the spur of the moment, let's finish with super over decision making. And that's fresh in our memory because when we've recorded this, we've just seen the Delhi-Rajasthan game, finally a super over in 5 years. I was very happy to see that. But I can imagine there must be so much emotion in the dugouts at that time. Anyway, close games will have emotions involved. And then you have to quickly put aside, if you're Rajasthan, that how have we not chased this? Or if you're Delhi, like, oh, we've got a chance in this. And you have to quickly decide, who are my 3 batters? And is this something you can actually plan for in your simulations and your pre-season training? Or is it something you can never plan for? Because it all depends on who has got runs on the day, who's hot, who's hitting it well on that pitch. Because what we saw from Rajasthan Royals was a curious choice of Parag, short of runs, not got a score in that game, along with Hetmeyer, who was there at the end, and then Jaiswal at 3. Not your best batter of the innings in a Nitish Rana. And you knew Mitchell Stark's going to come on. So let's break down that kind of decision making and whether, how it goes about.
From our side, I mean, you can prepare in your head before the game starts on what would be my best sort of picks, but you got to be adaptable to that. And on the night, who's the best bowler? Has he got it right? And then from a batting perspective, what do you think is going to be their best bowler? And who have I got in my batting lineup to try and counteract that threat? So for me, I mean, decisions get made. And last night for me would have been a situation of, right, Royals are going to be batting first. Who they're going to face? 100% Stark, because he's just nailed the last over. And what has he done? He's nailed Yorkers. So the next question is, who feels comfortable at the crease now? Who's got runs? And you had Jaiswal, you had Nitish Rana, you had Hetmeyer had been there, and also Jarrell had been there as well. What is Stark going to bowl? And who's best suited to face those particular deliveries? And you knew that Stark was going to go Yorkers. Why wouldn't he not go Yorkers? Because he'd been nailing them. So the question would be, who are my best batters that have been batting out there, that have been facing that to score? So not to say that Jaiswal wasn't the man. Okay, what I'm saying is that Jaiswal is a fantastic batter. He hits length though. He stands at the top of the order with a new ball that's swinging, and he really dominates length up front. Whether he's the best death hitter is questionable. For me, Nitish Rana had been out there facing death balls, and he had been scoring.
Yeah.
So I would probably have looked at that combination with maybe a Hetmeyer and then another person who I felt that if Starks landed 1 or 2 deliveries, maybe he could get down and lap.
Yeah.
Hetmeyer we know doesn't lap.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice for Hetmeyer to get off strike, maybe hit a boundary, and then the next guy comes in and he hits Stark off his length. What that does do, it forces Stark to change his length.
Yeah.
Because now he's scared of that shot. So yes, spur the moment. I just think you've got to be adaptable to what's happening in front of you on the evening.
That's the batting point. There's also the choice of bowler here, where you have Sandeep Sharma and you have a Jofra Archer. That could also be something you think of. Your Archer suddenly bowling well, but you've gone Sandeep Sharma. That was how would you have think that decision was reached at? There are numbers which back Sandeep Sharma's death bowling over Archer's, but yeah.
Yeah, as far as bowling is concerned, you do have a little bit of a idea of what the opposition batters are going to be used in that case, because obviously it could be a factor wherein a guy who is capable of hitting sixes is at one end, and on the other hand you also have a player who scored runs on that particular night is always going to be there. But for me, defending or setting up, it is about the temperament of the bowler. Does he have the temperament to really bowl where his fields are, and is he able to really exploit whatever is available at that particular night? So it could be a slowish surface, his cutters into the wicket, is he capable of bowling? So to have that understanding of who could be the best suited in that particular situation is something which the coach generally has a lot of say on. I think this is off the field decision wherein you have time, but I always believe that during simulations, I was always used to tell the players that once you get to a super over, the general thing is that okay, we have done something great, but it is job only half done, and that is a discussion that I would have with the players that okay, you've done great for it to be a super over, maybe from a winning position, from a losing position, but the game is not won or lost as yet, and that's where to have that calmness and then take those choices of players, batters or bowlers is the way the coaching camp or the coaches approach.
My last question would only be in that case of a super over. I know it's a very specific scenario, but how much are you talking to the bowler of what to bowl as well? Where you've seen Stark nail the Yorkers, he's Stark. Sandeep is experienced as well, but the choice of, say, bowling into the wicket vis-a-vis Sandeep can also bowl good Yorkers. And when we saw that game, we thought, okay, the batters, KL Rahul anticipated or was ready to take the into the wicket ball, so was Stubbs. Whereas the Yorker seemed to be the most effective ball of the night. So how much do you talk to a bowler or do you just leave it on him? This is on you, boss.
I think first you assess what is required at that particular point in time. Does that wicket require a Yorker bowler, or does it require a change of pace bowler or bowler who is like Hardik in this case, capable of bowling back of the length slow balls and happy doing that. That's his stock ball. He's okay to deliver, and that is when you make that choice according to what is required and let the bowler alone by saying that you bowl the best ball that you could think, but knowing very well which is his best ball, which is required on that particular situation.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. You've selected that bowler to do the job because you've seen the conditions, and you feel as a coach or as a captain that this guy that I've selected to bowl at 1 over is going to be the hardest for them to hit. Then you go to the bowler and you say to him, 100%, you're in charge here, you bowl your best ball in these conditions. We've selected you because we feel that you're going to be the toughest to hit, but go bowl your best ball every ball.
Mark Boucher, Sanjay Bangar. I think this was a fascinating education. So at the end of the day, we must remind everyone it's outcome based, and there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and sometimes
and we do require we do a little bit of work in the dugout.
Of course, and at the end of it, when we are ready to take aim and fire at the dugout, we should know sometimes even the dugout is also thinking the same thing. Captains might just have.
We're going to take a video analysis and put him in front of us.
So,
Thank you so much, gentlemen. That was a wonderful.
Are you passing us with flying colors or just about?
Sir, top of the class.
Thank you.